My name is Natalie Harper. I am 31 years old, and at 6:18 this morning, I woke up to a silence so complete it felt deliberate. My phone screen was dark. No missed calls, no texts, no alarms going off in the background. I sat up in bed and listened. Nothing. I walked to the front window. The driveway was empty. My chest didn't tighten. It hollowed out. I opened the Find My app, 15 dots. My parents, my younger brother Lucas, my fiance Evan, and their entire orbit, all of them moving together in a clean digital line heading north through the mountains toward Aspen, Colorado. They had left without me. The engagement retreat I had spent 5 months organizing, the one I had paid $14,950 for. Before we get into what kind of people do something like this, pause for a second, drop a comment, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. I like knowing who's here with me. I stood alone in the kitchen of the house I paid for. On the marble island sat a cutting board with half-sliced strawberries drying at the edges. They had eaten breakfast. They had poured the coffee I bought, used the mugs I replaced last month, and left the mess exactly where they stood up and walked away. It was so casually disrespectful, it almost felt rehearsed. I opened my laptop, telling myself I just needed to double-check the travel documents I had prepared for them, color-coded, shared folders, emergency contacts. As the screen lit up, a small iMessage sync window appeared in the corner. My mother's MacBook was still logged into my Apple ID from last night, and there it was, a group chat I wasn't part of. The title read, Clean Exit. No, Natalie. My fingers were steady when I clicked it. The timestamps told me everything. They had coordinated this at 3:47 a.m. Bags packed, cars loaded, quiet departure, like they were sneaking away from a hostage situation, not their daughter and fiancé. I scrolled. Lucas, if she comes, she's going to micromanage everything. I can't relax with her schedules. Mom, she means well, but she makes everything feel like work. Evan, at least her card is coming with us. That's what matters. I stared at that sentence longer than the rest. Just last night, I was up past midnight assembling altitude kits because my dad's blood pressure spikes above 8,000 feet, and my mom gets migraines if she skips electrolytes. I labeled every pouch. I printed backup itineraries. I finalized the meal requests for Lucas's girlfriend because she refuses gluten, dairy, sugar, or food that kills her vibe. While I was doing all of that, they were laughing in a private thread about how to disappear without me. The reflex kicked in automatically, the urge to smooth it over, to call and ask if there had been a misunderstanding, to offer to drive separately, to apologize for being too much. That reflex had been installed early. You don't become the family's default problem solver by accident. It starts when you're young and you learn that being useful earns affection and having needs earns silence. By your 20s, love starts to feel conditional. By 30, exploitation feels like responsibility. I had normalized it. I convinced myself that paying for everything was generosity, that managing everyone's comfort was my role, that if I just stayed indispensable, I would finally be appreciated. But reading Evan's message, at least her card is coming with us, something shut off. Not dramatically, quietly, like a breaker flipping. They didn't dislike me. They didn't resent me. They simply didn't register me as a person. I was infrastructure, a system, a resource. You don't invite the power grid on vacation. You expect it to function, and if it fails, you complain. I looked at the strawberries drying on the counter. I looked at the stillness of the house. They wanted freedom. I sat down at the island and opened the reservation portal for the Aspen Ridge Chalet. The $14,950 booking glowed on the screen. Non-refundable within 72 hours, unless you're the primary account holder. I picked up my phone and dialed the concierge line. My voice didn't shake. Hello, this is Natalie Harper. I'm the primary booking holder for the Aspen Ridge Chalet reservation beginning today. The concierge answered warmly, already cheerful. Oh, Miss Harper, we're preparing for your group's arrival. The private chef is en route, and the welcome champagne has been chilled. That sounds lovely, I said, tracing a crack in the marble with my nail. Unfortunately, I need to cancel the entire reservation effective immediately. There was a pause, a long one. Your party is scheduled to arrive within the hour. The policy. I'm aware of the policy, I said. I'm also aware that as the sole contract holder, I can cancel due to unauthorized use of my payment method. There is currently a security concern. It wasn't a lie. I authorized a family trip. This wasn't that. I understand, the concierge said, her tone shifting. Just to confirm, this will cancel lodging, lift passes, spa bookings, and chef services. All of it, I said. Please revoke access codes and notify security that the reservation has been terminated by the account holder. Understood. I heard typing. Each keystroke felt like pressure releasing. It's been processed. The refund will appear within 3 to 5 business days. Thank you. I ended the call and reopened Find Me. I watched the 15 dots glide along the highway. They were laughing. I knew it. Music on, windows cracked, talking about how much better this trip would be without me managing everything. I zoomed in, 10 minutes from the gate. I watched them slow, then stop. I watched the dots bunch together at the entrance gate, a tight, confused cluster where movement made no sense. I imagined it clearly. Windows rolling down, breath fogging the air, a uniformed guard stepping out with a clipboard, apologetic but unmoved. No reservation. Access denied. I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt balanced, like an account that had finally stopped hemorrhaging. For years, I had been operating at a loss, pouring time, money, and emotional labor into something that never returned equity. This morning, I closed the line of credit. My phone lit up. One call, then another, then a text. Lucas, the gate code isn't working. Call the resort now. I didn't respond. I walked to the sink and poured the rest of the coffee down the drain. I wasn't on duty anymore. I wasn't dispatch. I wasn't customer support. I was just Natalie, and Natalie was offline. The phone started vibrating harder, rattling against the countertop like it was angry at me. One buzz became 10. 10 became a non-stop hum. When I finally picked it up, the screen was a wall of notifications. 97 missed calls. My parents, Lucas, Evan, over and over. They had reached the gate. I didn't listen to the voicemails. I didn't want their voices in my house. Instead, I read the transcriptions like legal records. Lucas, 9:58 a.m. Natalie, the gate says there's no booking. It's freezing out here. Fix this. Mom, 10:02 a.m. This is humiliating. People are staring. Call the resort immediately. Do you understand how this looks? Evan, 10:11 a.m. Babe, stop playing games. I don't know what mistake you made, but you need to wire funds or talk to a manager right now. This is embarrassing. I stared at the words. Fix this, how this looks, wire funds. Not one message asking where I was, not one asking if I was okay. The system had failed, and they were furious at the system. I sat there holding the phone, feeling the warmth seep into my palm, and I let myself picture the other version of today, the one where I went with them. I'd be standing in that cold too, but I wouldn't notice it. I'd be unloading bags, arguing with staff, rearranging rooms, tracking missing gloves, apologizing for things that weren't my fault. I'd be sweating through my coat, coordinating joy I wasn't allowed to participate in. That future hovered in front of me like a ghost timeline, and I understood something with complete clarity. Leaving them there wasn't revenge. It was extraction. I was removing myself from unpaid labor. I was rescuing myself. Another text came through from Evan. Natalie, if you don't fix this right now, I don't know how we come back from this. I opened the screenshot of the group chat, the one where they called me controlling, the one where Evan joked about my card traveling without me. I created a new message, added everyone, parents, brother, cousins, all of them. I attached the image. I typed one sentence. Clean exit successful. I sent it. Then I powered the phone off completely. Not sleep mode, not silent, off. The quiet that followed felt expensive, rare. The house was still full of them, their photos, their clutter, their assumptions. I knew I couldn't stay, not while they were unraveling somewhere in a parking lot. I needed distance, clean distance. I opened my laptop. I didn't check the family calendar. I didn't open the budget spreadsheet. I went straight to an airline site, Savannah, Georgia. I'd wanted to go for years. Every time I mentioned it, my mother found a reason I couldn't. Who would watch the house? Who would help your father? Who would keep things running? I selected a flight leaving Denver in 4 hours, one way, first class. The ticket cost $7,600, almost exactly half of what I had just recovered. I went upstairs and packed one suitcase, just one. I didn't pack for anyone else. I didn't pack backup outfits or contingency shoes or emergency chargers. I packed my camera, my sneakers, 3 books I'd bought years ago and never had time to open. Before I left, I returned to the kitchen. I took a sheet of thick stationery from the drawer, the kind I usually saved for their thank you notes. I wrote a single line and placed it on the island beside the abandoned cutting board. The house is paid through the end of the month. Use the time wisely. I locked the door behind me. The drive to the airport felt unreal, like moving underwater. I kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting to see them chasing me, but they were hours away, arguing with staff who couldn't help them. At the airport, I walked through the priority line without rushing. I sat in the lounge with my coat folded over the arm of the chair. I drank a glass of champagne. I watched planes lift off into a pale winter sky. When I boarded, the flight attendant smiled and asked if I was traveling for business or pleasure. Neither, I said, fastening my seatbelt. I'm traveling to stay alive. I spent 9 days in Savannah. I walked along quiet streets in the early morning before the city woke up. I sat in squares where the air felt slow and forgiving. I ate alone without explaining myself to anyone. I didn't turn my phone back on, not once. I didn't know where they ended up staying. I didn't know how much it cost them. I didn't know how angry they were. And the most surprising part was how little that mattered. I wasn't punishing them. I was detoxing. I was scrubbing obligation out of my system. I came home on a Wednesday afternoon. The rideshare pulled up to the curb, and I immediately noticed the cars. 3 of them, all in my driveway. They were waiting. I unlocked the door and walked in with my suitcase still rolling behind me. It was staged. My parents on the couch, Lucas pacing, Evan standing by the window with his arms crossed like a disappointed investor. They stopped when they saw me. The tension was thick, almost humid. "You're back," my mother said. Her voice was calm, controlled, disappointed. The tone she used when I was a kid and had done something unforgivable without breaking a rule. "We were terrified. We thought something was wrong with you." "Nothing was wrong," I said. "I went on a trip." "You abandoned us," Lucas snapped. "We had to stay in a roadside hotel. Do you know how embarrassing that was?" "We need to talk about what you did," my father said, standing up. "This was cruel. It was reckless. You broke our trust." I looked at them, really looked. They were angry, yes, but underneath that, there was fear, the kind that shows up when a resource stops responding. They were furious monarchs standing in a castle they didn't own, shouting at the treasurer. They thought their authority came from age or titles or proximity. It didn't. It came from my compliance. "I didn't break your trust," I said. "I ended the arrangement." "What arrangement?" Evan scoffed. "We're family. This isn't business." "The arrangement where I fund your lives and you tolerate me," I said. "I saw the messages, the clean exits. You wanted a trip without me. I honored that." My mother shifted immediately. "That was a joke. You know how sensitive you are." "I'm sensitive because I carry all of you," I said. I reached into my bag and pulled out a blue folder. I had picked it up from my attorney's office on the way home from the airport. "What's that?" my father asked. "This," I said, setting it on the table, "is the trust documentation. Grandpa didn't leave the house to you. He placed it in a living trust and named me sole trustee. He told me if you ever treated me the way you treated him, like a checking account with a pulse, I was to execute the clause." My father's face drained of color. "That's not true. He said this house was for the family." "It is," I said, "but I decide who qualifies." I opened the folder and slid a document forward, a standard lease agreement. "Fair market rent for this house is $2,300 a month plus utilities." Silence. Lucas swallowed. "I don't have that kind of money." "Then you'll need to adjust your lifestyle," I said. I looked at my parents. "You've lived here rent-free for 5 years. I've paid everything. That ends today. Rent is due immediately. If you can't pay, you have 30 days to vacate." Evan stepped forward, soft voice, practiced charm. Natalie, let's slow down. We're getting married. This is family. You don't evict family. I looked at the ring on my finger. I'd paid for half of it when his bonus was tied up. I slid it off and placed it in his hand. We're not getting married, I said, and I'm not evicting family. I'm ending tenancy. The aftermath wasn't loud. It was administrative. They didn't pay. They couldn't. My parents moved into a smaller place outside the city. Lucas couch surfed. Evan sent messages, long ones, apologies wrapped in excuses. I changed my number. I stayed. The house felt enormous at first, quiet in a way that echoed. I painted the walls. I turned one room into a reading space. I stopped managing anyone else's life. Months later, I hosted a small dinner. 4 people I'd met hiking, people who carried their own gear, people who split the bill without asking. No one needed me. No one drained me. I realized I had confused exhaustion with love. I thought being needed was the same as being valued. It isn't. Love doesn't invoice you. Love doesn't threaten you when you stop paying. If you've ever been the invisible wallet in your family, the planner, the fixer, the one who keeps everything running, understand this. You are allowed to close the account. You are allowed to resign. They will call you selfish. They will call you cruel. But when the noise stops and you're standing in a quiet space you own, you'll realize something. You didn't lose a family. You gained a life. If this story resonated with you, like the video. Subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And comment below with your perspective or the lesson you took from it.